exactly what my expectations are. So hopefully the PowerPoint will really help you in terms of what you need to do. So when you click through here, the first part is just explaining to you what is the purpose of part 2. And we've kind of already talked about this, but part 1 was choosing which pathway you're going to do some research on or learn more about. So either you were choosing the transfer pathway where you're transferring onto a four-year school, or you were choosing the pathway where you're going right into the workforce. Part 1 included, what do you already know about that pathway? What are your assumptions? What's always been your thoughts and your dreams about that pathway? You did not do research for part 1. Those were just your own thoughts and ideas. Now for part 2, this is where you really dig in and you do the research. You're going to kind of test those assumptions or what you already know about your pathway and see, if you're right, see what else you learn. So this is where you're really going to use resources, either on the internet, you can use online resources, websites, you can use personal resources. So if you have anyone within that career or someone in your family or friends that's gone to that particular school, you can talk to them. And then you can also reach out, specifically if you're researching a particular career, you could reach out to somebody within that career if you haven't already done that. And I know some of you have done interviews for your student engagement opportunity assignment, so you might already have some personal connection to somebody within that field that you could talk to them. So that's what the purpose of part 2 is. Now, in terms of what I'm looking for in part 2, this is a little bit different than just a typical research paper. I don't just want what you learned. I don't just want the research about the school or the career, which obviously you are going to include that, but I also want to know the process of you doing that. So you're going to tell me a story, and you can use first person. You're going to tell me a story of what you did to research this. So you're going to be very specific. You're going to tell me if you interviewed someone. You're going to tell me if you went to the library and looked up resources in the library. You're going to tell me if you spent some time online. Maybe you've gone to a college visit to the particular college that you're interested in. Explain that you went on a college visit and took a tour or whatever it is that you did. So it's not just about what you learned, which you are going to be including that, but you're also going to tell me the story of, how did you find out about this pathway? What are things that you tried to do? Maybe you met with Marina or Kathy in career services and took a career assessment and they helped you, and that was kind of the start of it. Maybe your aunt works in that particular field and you went and job shadowed her for the day, and that really piqued your interest in that particular career. I mean, try to give me some of the story in the background in terms of what all you did, not just what you found out. Okay, so you are telling me a story, but it does need to be very specific. It needs to be well organized, and you are going to need to include citations. If you are not familiar with how to do citations, I do give you a little bit of information and examples at the end of this at the end of this presentation, but please reach out to our writing center, because there are experts in their writing center that can help you with citations. So once you get your rough draft and you know the different resources that you've used, if you need help creating those citations, please reach out to the writing center because they can help you with that. Okay, so the format of part 2, you're going to have an introduction, you're going to have 3 to 4 body paragraphs, you're going to have a conclusion, and then you're going to have a works cited page. So this is the setup of what part 2 is going to look like. Okay, and then I break it down for you and I tell you exactly what my expectations are for each paragraph. So in the introduction, you're going to introduce which path you chose. Okay, now part 1, you did a lot of talking about that. You kind of walked me through that process of what are your goals and what path you're thinking about. So now in part 2, in the introduction, you're going to introduce that to me. You're going to very specifically state which path you're taking and what you're going to focus on for your research. And you're going to explain your goal. What is your goal in your transfer path? What is your goal into going into the workforce? So make sure that you really explain that and why it's important. I give you an example from a past student here to kind of help you. She explains that she's always been passionate about helping people, and she knew that she wanted to go in a career that let her help people in her everyday job. She explains why she chose to come to Lincoln Land first, and then she explains her specific goal, which was to transfer to a four-year university to earn a bachelor's degree in early childhood, and why that is important to her. So for this particular paper, for this project, it's clear that she's going to be talking about her transfer goal onto her four-year school. Okay. So then in your body paragraphs, now you're going to explain to me what research did you do and how did you accomplish it? And so that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. Did you go to the library? Did you interview someone? Did you do a lot of online research? Did you job shadow? What are the things that you did? So you're going to really explain to me what was your process, and then you're also going to give me that facts that you found out about your path or your career way. Okay, so if you're looking at the four-year school, there's specific things I'm wanting you to look for and include. And then if you're looking at your career, there are specific things I want you to look for and include. And so I'm going to post in your module folder a separate document that shows you facts I want you to look for and include in these body paragraphs. So look for that in your folder, because that will be helpful to you to see, what should I be looking for? What does she want me to learn or know about my four-year school, or what should I be sharing about my career? And then I also want you to tie this into those original thoughts in part one, when you were kind of making your assumptions about the career or the transfer school. Were you shocked by anything that you learned? Did anything really excite you? Are there concerns that you have now after looking at it? Do you still think this would be a best fit for you? If not, why? Have you now changed your mind? Like, maybe you looked at the four-year school and you're like, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. This is completely different than what I assumed or what I had heard, and now I'm not so sure if this is the best fit for me. So I want you to be honest. After you've done this research, how did that impact your decision moving forward? Okay, so this is what is going to be in those 3 to 4 body paragraphs in the bulk of the essay. And then I've included some more examples from student A to try to kind of help you. She explains that she started her research process by meeting with Kathy in Career Services. She also met with her student success coach, Melissa, and talked about, her pathway. Then in paragraph 2, she talks about how she spent some time online on different websites doing some career cruising. And then she also spent a lot of time on Illinois State University's website, because that's where she was going to transfer to. So she includes all of these things in these body paragraphs, the process, and then also what she learned about the university. Then in this last paragraph, this is what I was just talking about. Was there anything that shocked you or was different, or did that change your mind? And so she shares that she was shocked about how expensive Illinois State was, that she did not think it was going to be that expensive. And so the tuition cost shocked her a little bit. And so then she talked to her advisor, her success coach, about scholarships and what she could do to try to help that cost. And then she was also surprised by the outlook for teachers in Illinois. She had looked at the job outlook and it wasn't as high as what she thought. So those were some things that were a little bit different than her assumption. So I do want you to include that. What did you learn that did fit with your assumptions, and what were things you learned that were different? Okay, and then your last paragraph is going to be a conclusion. This is just a typical conclusion. You're wrapping up your final thoughts on this pathway, and then you're going to share what are your next steps. So depending on where you're at right now at Lincoln Land, what do you have left to do at Lincoln Land? And then after you're done at Lincoln Land, what would be your next steps? Do you need to apply to that four-year school? Do you need to go visit it? Do you need more information? If you're going into the workforce, are you prepared for that? Do you need to create a resume? Do you need to, maybe get some help with job interviewing before you start to try to apply for jobs after you graduate? So it is important that your conclusion gives me just a wrap up of your final thoughts and then tells me what are going to be your next steps. Okay. I do give you some information in terms of the in-text citations. You have to make sure that you're giving credit to the sources that you're using. If you don't, it is plagiarism. So you cannot take material from websites or even from people that you interview without giving credit to them. So I give you some examples here of how you do that. In-text citations are just at the end of the sentence, and you're using the person's last name or the title of a website if you don't have an author, and then you're including that full citation at the end on a works cited page. So I give you some examples of this. Again, if you are not familiar at all with citations, please reach out to the Writing Center and get an appointment with somebody one-on-one. They do in-person and virtual appointments. So if you can't get to main campus, they will meet with you virtually, but they will help you with this. So just keep track of where all your information comes from. if you're using different websites, write those down or save them in your bookmarks so you can get back to them. If you're interviewing someone, keep that straight in terms of what that person told you. So just make sure that you're keeping all of your information, that you're keeping track of where it came from, so then you can cite it. This website, Al Purdue, is a really great website as well. It basically gives you examples of how to cite anything. So maybe there's a YouTube video that you watched and you're like, how in the world do I give credit to this YouTube video? It will show you on this Al Purdue website of how to give credit to a YouTube video. So this is a really great resource as well to help you with that works cited. And then I just give you some examples of kind of what the works cited page itself should look like. And then I do give you some common citations. So like this is the format that you would use for a website. This is the format if you have a hard copy book. This is an article in a journal or a newspaper, etc. So I do give you a few that are pretty common, but again, if you have a different one that you need, that Al Purdue website will help you. Okay, so I hope that was helpful in terms of kind of my expectations for part 2. You are going to research either the career or the school, and you're going to give me factual information of what you learned. And again, I'm going to post that document in the folder to help you know, like, what am I looking for? But you're also going to tell the story of your whole process of this. So I think that's a little bit different than a typical research paper. That I also want the story of what is the research you did. And you can include emotion in that. You can include different thoughts you had, like maybe at different points when you're trying to research, you were overwhelmed. Like maybe your particular pathway, there's a lot more to it than what you thought. And so that's kind of overwhelming. It's like, oh man, I have to go to school longer than what I thought. And how will I manage all that with my other responsibilities? Maybe, you got excited looking at the four-year school and you're like, I think this is a great fit for me. I can't wait to get there. So I want to hear all of that. I want to hear your emotions. I want to hear your thoughts. And then obviously the process that you took in order to find this information. And then I also want the actual facts of what you learned. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I hope this video helped. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. Like I said, you have the next 3.5 weeks to work on this to create the rough draft. And then I will have a pretty quick turnaround in giving you feedback in terms of what you need to fix or improve. And then you will have just the first 2 weeks in May to revise and put everything together and then add your final paragraph for part 3. And then you will be ready to turn that in for your final grade. So it's really important that you don't procrastinate for part 2 because this is the bulk of the work. And it does make it much more difficult if you wait till the very end and try to cram everything in. So working on it a little bit at a time over the next couple of weeks can really be helpful just in that thought process, and giving you opportunity to look at multiple different resources at different times instead of having to cram it all in the night before it's due. So definitely keep that in mind and try to spread out the work as much as possible. And please let me know if you need any help or guidance. And obviously we have a great resource in Career Services. They're always there to help you. If you have not already watched the video that I have posted by Career Services in the Final Projects folder, please watch that video because that video has some resources for you as well to use to find information out about your career. So I think that would be really beneficial to you as well. Okay, as always, let me know if you have any questions or concerns